Hello everyone, good evening. I'll be presenting you today my speech to inform on the late 1960s horsepower war heat up. In the late 1960s, the streets to the drag strips to the garages were absolutely insanely filled with 400 plus horsepower cars. To Detroit to San Francisco, all over the globe, programs battled to try to battle the stopwatch. Yet in my class, only 1 out of 13 people said they even heard of it or even understood the horsepower war. While 9 out of 13 people said they're interested in the engineering and racing angles, this tells me that this is a topic and relevant worth talking about. To prepare, I studied Post's drag racing book, Fee's Age of the Muscle Car, Road and Track, and White's Horsepower War Heat Up. I also analyzed my own audience survey. In this talk, I'll explain 3 things: that how competition in racing escalated that power, and how marketing and ratings shaped that people's beliefs, and how rules and insurances ended the war. Let's move from the parking lot to the streets where the real racetracks and the war began. First, automaker rivalry in racing homologation in NASCAR and NHRA rapidly escalated engines and factory performance packages from the mid 1960s to 1970. According to Post, manufacturers weaponized the big blocks like Pontiac GTO 389, Ford's 427, Chrysler's 426, and Hemi and Chevrolet's 326 to 427, eventually culminating the best of 454 big block. And all built of the idea to win on Sunday and to sell on Monday. A great advertisement if you ask me. I mean, my dad even fell into it. I mean, my dad has a million cars. A lot of them are old schools. 69 Chevelle, 60K9 Camaro, 57 Bel Air. I mean, from his experience, I can tell you that the old school, the models, the cars, they're just the best, and you can't replace them. Honestly, better than the LS. I studied Road and Track's backup headline numbers that fueled the arms race. 425 advised horsepower to 426 Hemi and Chevrolet's 396 as the displacement race intensified from 1967 to 1970. In my own class survey, 4 out of 13 classmates said racing matters most in shaping what gets built. That's exactly the point of those homologation specials. Street cars created so the factory could race something similar. And when I asked, what's your favorite car movie, everyone said the same thing: Fast and Furious. It seems like everyone could relate to that and everyone watched it in their lifetime, so that's a perfect example of how racing culture on screen connects to in person and out of the person, showroom and in person. Secondly, marketing and ratings practices, especially insane horsepower, often inflated and obscured true performance in period advertising. White reports around 1968 to 1969, insurers began charging higher premiums for higher horsepower models. You have the stock LT3 to the medium, and then to the SS, the Super Sport, or the Rally Sport. At the same time, though, they were advertised as SAE horsepower figures. Those were measured by without full accessories, sometimes under idealized conditions, while exaggerated rollable output. Personally, I have a 1969 Chevelle, and that's the best year. The best, same with the Camaro. They look the best, they drive the best. I mean, there's nothing about it that you won't like. But even with the awesome cars like that, the numbers on the brochure always didn't match what the magazines measured. Road and Track explained one thing to me that I actually very understand. Explains how some engines were underrated for classifying or overrated for ads, creating confusion between brochure numbers and road test results. And significantly, since 1 out of 13 classmates had even heard of it, Horsepower War clarifying verses, gross verses, and net ratings helps decode why those eras' bold claims didn't always reflect what drivers always felt on the street. Thirdly, federal emission rules and safety requirements, rising premiums, and fuel concerns curtailed the war by 1970 to 1972. Fees and Post, what I read and got into today, describe how the 1970 Clean Air Act actually led to compression sales and ratio cuts in 1971 and 72, and they shift from the SAE gross to the SAE net ratings on paper. Horsepower dropped sometimes dramatically and significantly, even as drivability and emissions compliance improved. White talked about how higher insurance premiums and regulatory pressures actually pushed automakers to detune performance mode packages and pivot marketing away from peak horsepower. Even classmates today don't really care or encounter the legacy of this era and brand identities, and in films like Ford versus Ferrari, mentioned in my survey, and of course, Fast and Furious, once in the dyno rooms went quiet under new rules and rising premiums, the war faded. All over the globe, you still see it sometimes today, but the cars are getting more legal. State reps are going on. Parts are getting more illegal. You'll see places like Reno, Japan, and Germany with those laws still not abiding. They still have the nice old school car laws, just like in New Jersey. So the war faded, but it still echoes today in how we shape and talk about that horsepower, not just in America, but around the world. So what should we take away from today? By tracing how competition and racing escalated that power, and how marketing ratings really magnified perceptions, and how regulation and insurance dosed today's flames. We can better understand a short chapter and how this still influences American car culture in today's society. And here's my take. Cars back in the day, they looked better, drove better, had better packages. I mean, now cars are made really cheap, they break down easier, and you have to go to the shop every once in a couple weeks. They weren't made how they used to. They weren't drive how they used to. Nowadays, cars feel cheaper. They break down more easily. They don't look as good. They used to obviously run, but they don't run as well. In my opinion, old schools are better, faster, they drive better, look better. And thank you so much. Have a great day.